Ladies and gentlemen, oh my word. Round 7 at the FIDE Grand Swiss was incredible. There is so much to talk about, so much to go through. We have new leaders, we have storylines playing out all over the board, we have prodigies on a tear, we've got a world champion who's struggling, we've got a lady on fire in the open section. Absolutely incredible. There's so much to discuss, so we can stop the slideshow and we can pull up the board. The first game we must go to is Parham Maghsoodloo and Nihal Sarin. Why? Parham Maghsoodloo at the start of this round has the sole lead. What was this game? Well, d4, d5, c4, and c6. It was a Slav defense from Parham Maghsoodloo. Knight to c3, knight to f6, all main lines. And now c takes d5, c takes d5, the exchange Slav, which is considered to be very, very boring. Bishop to f4, knight to c6. Not bishop, e3, and now bishop to f5. Knight to f3, e6, and now queen b3. Bishop to b4 is an interesting move. Knight jumps into the center, threatening to take and then take, obviously, so you must resolve that problem, and we resolve it with queen to b6. And now f3, chosen by Nihal Sarin. An interesting move. And I'm looking at it now. There are 3 games in the Masters database on Chess, and there's not much to see here, really, in terms of players. So the players are probably now much on their own. You can see from the time spent. It's very interesting. Knight takes c6, according to the engine, was the best move in this position. Now, we get short castles. Oh, not reset the board. Short castles. There we go. Now knight takes c6, b takes c6, and now king to f2. This was the big idea of f3, was to be able to play king to f2 and not castle. Why? Because you might want to use your h-pawn and not have your rook moved over to the f-file. So now you can get your king to safety and launch a king-side attack. Knight to d7, knight to a4 hits the queen, queen to a5, now bishop to c7. Very simplistic idea. If you take this, I take this. And that is slightly beneficial for white. But what we miss is that I can do that. And actually, black is the one who is slightly better. e5, rook to c1, rook f8, bishop to e2, rook e6. This is just a good move. You're defending your weakness. You can also swing this way and put pressure and defend against anything. This rook can now come in and join the party. This knight lands there, but it can be captured or ignored completely. White needs to get going with their attack. That's what they need to do. Otherwise, black's position is slightly better. Your king is on f2 and exposed. We can crack open the center, and we can use these open lines to win pawns and really disrupt your position. So, white needs to get going. D takes c5 is a move in the right direction. Rook a e8. So we don't recapture the pawn. We instead double the rooks. Now queen to f4. And now bishop to g6 just moves out the way. Rook h, d1. And knight takes e5. Knight to c5. Rook 6, e7. Rook c3. Now white also looking to get their rooks up. Rook lift, get them to useful squares. Because there's not really open files to fight for. This is maybe one half open file. There's not really much space for the rooks, but you need to get them in the game. And now a5 from black. a4. Now we've both tussled for queenside space. Are these weaknesses? Well, black's is a weakness. This can be defended by means of b3. This is a weakness for black. White, in playing very provocatively, has left black with a couple of weaknesses. And white does have a weak king, but at the moment there's no real way to attack it. Queen a7, h3. Queen b6, rook d2. Slow improving move. Queen a7. Black doesn't have a lot of moves. Queen to d4, centralizing. Rook b7, just knight to e6. Beautiful move, by the way. Asking about a queen trade. And you might say, wait, hang on. And obviously, sorry, after this. If you take my knight, I take your queen. So you can't do that. If you move the queen, then I can take this knight. And then you would capture that. Probably with the rook. So a nice little tactical sequence to exchange some pieces. or not. You just reroute the knight. A move that was impossible is now possible, because now rook b, e8, and after b3, h4, queen to c5, queen b8, and queen takes a5, knight d7 is played, and white is completely winning. Completely winning. Nihal Sarin is up a pawn, and now rook takes c6, he's up 2 pawns. We take back on e3, so he only has a short-lived 2-pawn advantage, and knight takes g6 gives away the advantage. Knight takes g6 is a practical decision because you're down a pawn. However, there is significant pressure on this bishop, which your knight was defending, so maybe this is a bit rushed. The winning move here is to play rook c7, to have eyes on the knight and on this once you'd capture, and it's just a more accurate move. And then you might say, but hang on, can't black take this? Yeah, but then now you can play knight takes g6. Then you can do that when there's no pressure on the bishop. Knight takes g6 is a bit premature because of queen g3, and now knight to f6. You don't even take this back because black is going for counterplay, and Parham Maghsoodloo is looking to win, and rook takes f6. G takes f6. Knight takes h4. It just looks like Parham is going to win. Is white able to hold and survive? Will Nihal survive? He will, because rook takes b3 was played, and white's winning again. Winning for one move only, and Nihal Sarin finds it. That's knight to f5. Queen to f4 is what's played. The best move in this position is to play rook b1 check. Why? Because rook d1 has to be played, otherwise you hang mate. Rook takes d1, bishop takes d1, and now queen e5, threatening the infiltration and the knight. And this would have been the winning continuation for Nihal Sarin. What? Why is it still 2.6? Oh, white was just winning. Yeah, just completely winning the whole time. That was the best continuation, rather. Sorry. Lost my train of thought. Been a long day. Queen takes d5. Rook b1 check is now played, but the king comes up, and Nihal Sarin, ladies and gentlemen, defeats Parham Maghsoodloo. And not only that, he takes the lead, potentially by himself, potentially joined with someone later, and crosses over 2,700. What an incredible performance. And now we must ask, is someone going to join him in the lead? Well, the winner of this game will join him in the lead. C4, E6, G3, and it's an English opening from Arjun Ergaisi that transitions into a Catalan. This is something that all these top grandmasters, they know a lot of. Interesting line here with C6 in here. You would think that this makes it weak and also weakens the C5 square, but it is played a lot. I mean, and some of the top games are by Arjun Ergaisi. He knows how to play this system. It's an interesting system because you do allow this. You allow this play, you allow the knight to get into the center, you allow this bishop to operate, and it's a very interesting system. Anyway, knight fg5, just threatening all sorts of ideas. G6 stops them, and now we take. Knight takes, queen takes, and queen to b3. We don't want to trade queens just yet. Rook ac8, rook ac1, queen b5, and now we trade off a set of rooks. Looking very much like they are liquidating. Lots of stuff hanging as the queens maneuver around the board. Rook c7, just securing space on the second rank. We go for it. That got stopped. Okay, where do we move the queen now? Because it's kind of in the firing line. It's not useful on h4. Where do we move the queen? Well, you've only got one move, and that's to not move the queen. That's to play g4. You went for an attack. Now you must continue it, and you must continue to open lines towards the black king, because quite frankly, this pawn is a problem. It's going to be joined here. The rook has open file almost to itself. This bishop is quite powerful. This knight is coming in all sorts of places, and this pin is very problematic. So you must play g4, and then the best move is knight to f6, and this is how the game would have continued. We would have had bishop takes, and then rook takes b7, and then something like g takes h5, knight takes h5, and queen g4 probably. This is how the game probably would have continued. Instead of that, Arjun Ergaisi plays queen to d4, and Matthias Bluebaum from Germany is now winning. He misses it. Queen of d8 is inaccurate, but he gets a second bite of the cherry after queen takes a7. That was not a free pawn. Bishop a8. You're now bust. Knight takes e6 is a desperate attempt, as the queen tries to escape, and does, but you've had to sacrifice a piece for it, and we trade, and it is a terrible position, and Matthias Bluebaum from Germany defeats Arjun Ergaisi, one of the top seeds in the FIDE Grand Swiss, and makes it look effortless after he was basically handed a victory. It was brilliant from Matthias Bluebaum, and he finds the win, marches his king forward, and this is the end of the game. Mate in 20, Matthias Bluebaum from Germany. But that was not the only decisive victory. No, I would like to take you to this game, which caught my fancy the moment I saw it. Hans Niemann versus one of the talks of the tournament, Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus of Turkey, one of the Turkish prodigies. Yesterday was all about prodigies. I put 2 videos out about them. He's having a fantastic tournament. Hans, a win here puts him in contention, puts him closer, particularly with Parham losing. e4, e5, and it was a Petrov defense. Knight takes f3, and it was a main line Petrov. All sorts of stuff played. Knight to c6. This is the classical variation of the Petrov. And look at this. Queen f6. These guys busting out some theory. But it gets very interesting, right? Because after long castles, indicating a fight. Bishop b5. Knight takes d2. Knight takes d2. f4. Rook e1. f3 is a mistake from Erdogmus. h3 is a mistake back from Hans. But I want you to look at the time. Hans Niemann has an hour. Erdogmus has 16 minutes and 20 seconds. It is move 14 of this game. They only get more time at move 40. To my knowledge, there's no increment at the start. There might be like a little bit. It's not a lot of time. And he's got to make 26 moves. And this is not an easy position. Reason being, you have castle on opposite sides. So black is coming for you, and white is coming for you. And there is pressure to damage structures and to take pawns. Black is on the huge attack here. It's a challenging position. You need time. And bishop takes h5. Bishop h5, not takes h5. Bishop h5 is a blunder. And Hans Niemann is just better. Because he plays bishop takes c6. Pawn takes c6. According to the ancient, queen c6 is the better move. And now, rook e5. Queen g6. I simply defend with g3. You have nothing. I can sack the rook. Hans Niemann sacrifices the rook. Bishop e3, and it's not being taken. You might ask, wait, why is this just straight up not being taken? Let's go back a move. Why is this rook not being taken? Well, in this position, it's because of knight to c5. You lose, because I'm cutting off your escape. Now if you go back, it's too late, because you have queen a6, and the only move is here, and then you get mated. So that bishop can't move. So Hans Niemann just sacrifices the rook, move after move, because it cannot be taken. And now, queen takes c6. Now you take the rook, but check. Here, check, here. Hans Niemann is just winning. He's down a rook, only temporarily. Queen f5, the final blunder. Because check. Rook f6, now you have to give the rook back. I take again. And this endgame after g takes f6, completely winning. 26 moves. Hans Niemann defeats Erdogmus, and he moves into contention. There are other players in contention though, but one player who is very quickly falling out of contention to be up there near the top of the boards. Where is he? Sorry, I'm looking on Lichess for the game, and I'm not finding it. Where is he? There it is. One player who is fallen out of contention is the world champion Gukesh. plays another Turkish player, another Turkish prodigy, another 16-year-old. After he played Abhimanyu Mishra, he did hold a draw against Erdogmus, so maybe he can hold a draw against this Turkish teen sensation. It was a Karakan, which he's played before in this tournament. In round 1, he had a good position, he had a good game, and he gets his, he's in prep. These guys bust out a bunch of prep. Bishop takes d3. Queen takes. These guys know what's going on. Long castles. Gukesh is cooking. He's up a pawn. He's just cooking with all the prep. Rook b1, Queen a3, Rook b3, Queen a4. We're very quickly going out of known theory, but these players, after King g1, they still know what they're doing. Bishop d6. The knight jumps forward. We retreat the bishop. The Turkish player, the first to go out of g3, knight b6, king g2, and these players play a lot of solid moves. The only real event comes right here. White is better. Gukesh is slightly misplayed. But they play queen d1. And now Gukesh is better and is potentially winning. The best move here, which he has to find, is knight to a5. A simply ridiculous move. But you attack this. Not threaten it, yes, because the knight is still defending it. You hit the rook, and there's this pin as well. And trading pieces now would be beneficial for Gukesh. He's up a pawn. He does play it. Rook f3 is what's played. We get queen takes d1, rook takes d1, and now rook h7. And now, will Gukesh convert this endgame? He starts off really well. He grows his advantage. He looks to trade pieces. We trade off a couple pawns. c5 is slight inaccuracy. Rook f5, knight d2 check. We reroute the knight to e4. But we give up the h-pawn. Now, these pawns are all passes. All three. These two are passes, and you will create one passer of your own. So this is very much a race. But it is the most complicated pawn race you've ever seen in your life, and Gukesh is down to 2 minutes to try and win this, versus 16. But we are approaching move 40, so he will get additional time. Knight f6. Knight takes f6, rook takes f6. So now it is bishop and 2 rook endgame. Equal pawns, but split pawn structure. Rook d3 is a mistake, a blunder from Gukesh in low time. The best move here, he's got a couple of holding moves. He can play rook g4. He can play king b7. He can play rook d2. No, that's the wrong rook. Rook d2. He can play b5. And he can play king d7. Don't need that rook circle. These are the kind of moves that he's looking at. Something that doesn't change the position too drastically. Rook d3, you would think doesn't. But h5 now. Bishop to d8 hits the rook, but the rook slides back. And white is the one pressing, and every move, it seems like they might be growing their advantage. We offer a trade of bishops, and bishop takes h3. a3, not h3. Makes no sense, because takes. Takes, and Gukesh is just lost. Gukesh is just lost. He's down a piece. He makes another blunder. He tries to get through because he has 4 passed pawns, but rook b1, and white wins because you can't push these pawns through. They're blockaded. White just has an extra bishop, and you can't push these pawns through. They're all on dark squares, and the rooks do a fantastic job of stopping them. Unbelievable from Gukesh. He loses 3 in a row, and is now 10th in the world. You just can't fathom it. You can't. And I need to show you his opponent for tomorrow. His opponent for tomorrow is going to be none other than one of these two players. If I can find their game. Where's their game? Yeah, there it is. Velimir Ivic or Divya Deshmukh. Velimir Ivic has had a really decent tournament. Both of these players really underrated. E4, C5. It was a Sicilian. It was a really interesting Sicilian with B3. It was a B3 Sicilian. You don't see this much, but this is the kind of preparation you can uncork. We get a double fianchetto from Divya Deshmukh, who's she's having a great tournament. I'll tell you more about it after this, but she's having a great time. We obviously are trying to find out who Gukesh is playing in the next round, because it is a fascinating matchup as they exchange blows, but Divya Deshmukh is just winning. She wins the center pawn, she wins another pawn, and she's going to survive the attack on her king from Black. Black has to go for counterplay because they're worse, but it's just clean up, and we get to this endgame where she's only slightly better, but she's got a rook for 2 pieces, and generally speaking, that will be enough. That should and would be enough in most cases, as the rooks get traded off, the king gets brought forward, and the rook just does an amazing job. It is really a great piece to have. It's hard to defend endgames, 2 pieces versus rook, but with the pawns, Divya Deshmukh, 49 moves, fantastic. And she is playing the world champion tomorrow. Divya Deshmukh is playing the world champion tomorrow. I have one more game to show you, one more stat to tell you about. We go to board 3. Abhimanyu Mishra versus Anish Giri. Giri plays in English. And this was a very fascinating game because it's kind of transitioned into like a Catalan of sorts, but not really a Catalan, because, you know, the pawn structure and the move order wasn't the same. We traded the queens in the first 10 moves, so it looks like it's probably going to head for a draw. And it kind of did. For a long time, it was kind of, we maneuvered and we traded pieces. We maneuvered and we traded pieces. We traded pawns, we didn't trade bishops. We did trade bishops and we traded like this. And we damaged pawn structures. But it, like, tactically, yes, you were looking at a couple of things because it wasn't, like, the exact same captures. But we traded pieces, we got to a rook endgame. And no one was really pressing. Maybe Mishra was probably pressing a little bit as we got to this endgame. But it's 3-on-3. Anybody's winning this, it's Black, but they're about to lose their biggest pawn because they're going to lose this. That gets pushed through. The king comes closer. We race the kings over. Check here. And maybe, just maybe, Anish Giri is going to win this. He's not. As the pawns all kind of cancel each other out. The king can't get close because the black king is superbly placed. And they repeat moves and they make a draw. Abhimanyu Mishra is 63 games undefeated. I didn't know this. He's currently 63 games without loss. That's unbelievable. He's 16. He shouldn't be this good. Now, he hasn't won 63 games, obviously. But that's an incredible streak. And he's up amongst the contenders. As I, now go back to the slideshow and we close the board and we kind of conclude, we need to talk about the standings. Because it is Matthias Bluebaum and Nihal Sarin, who both won today. They leapfrog Parham Maghsoodloo. Nihal for beating him and Parham lost, so he could be overtaken. So Bluebaum and Nihal now lead with 5.5. There are then 7 players on 5. So the chasing pack just got bigger because the leader lost. And this is what I said in the video that went out earlier today. The leaders have to play each other, and they couldn't lose to each other, so people are in contention. You know who the people are on 5 are? Abhimanyu Mishra, Parham Maghsoodloo, Alireza Firouzja, who won today, Nordebek Abdusatorov, who won today and went into the world's top 10, Anish Giri, who held a draw today, Hans Nieman, who beat Erdogmus, Virat Gujarati is the final one on 9. So 9 players in contention. And then there's a whole pack on 4.5, which goes out until 20. I don't think any of them are going to be contenders, but notable players to look out for is obviously Arjun Ergaisi, who suffered a crushing defeat today, Nicholas Theodore, who's beaten the world champion, Vincent Keimer, Pragdananda Ramesh Babu, Jan Nepomniachtchi, Shakria Mamadara, Vu Gi, and Ricard Laporte. That's not obviously all the players, but it's incredible. An incredible day's play. Sorry, I just had to check notes. Take app, not sponsored. That's just what I was using for the chess. It's a great app. What is going on? We've got Divya Deshmukh versus Gukesh. Parham lost, not Prague. Nordebek is world's top 10. Gukesh is now 10th in the world. Divya Deshmukh has gained 15 rating points. Nihal Sarin's 2700 again. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm enjoying it. No day is boring. Are you enjoying it?